All right, let's continue to talk about how we can replace and change color. And in this movie, we'll take a look at an example which is a bit more complicated. This image will require that we take a few steps. We'll start off using replace color, and then next we'll make a selection and finish the project off using hue saturation in order to work on another area of the photograph. We'll be working with this portrait of a professional musician. This guy is the drummer for Ben Harper's band, and you can tell that he really loves what he does. He's a phenomenal drummer, and let's say that the record label has asked us if we can change the color of the stripes of his shirt and also his hat in order to match the color palette and the graphic design of his album, which is about to come out. And they want these stripes in the hat to be a subtle navy blue. So we say, okay, no problem, we can do this. And here's how. We'll copy the background layer, click and drag that to the new layer icon, and name this new layer Color. Next, navigate to the Image pull-down menu and choose Adjustments. And then you know where we're going, right? We're going all the way down to Replace Color. First, we'll work on the stripes here. We can do this by clicking on the stripes in order to start to build up a selection. Now we need to add to the selection, obviously, so hold down the Shift key and click and drag across the stripes. Now as you're dragging across this area, if you notice that you're selecting more colors than you want to select, what you can do is work with what's called localized color clusters. Now when you turn this on, what it will do is it will limit your selection to the area where you're clicking so that you won't select, say, the color of the hat, because I need to work on the hat in a different way than the stripes because they're a different shade of green. Well, next we can increase our fuzziness by cranking this slider up a little bit, then hold down the Shift key and just click and drag across the stripes. As you start to work to make these selections, what you'll want to do eventually, of course, is check your progress. One way you can do that is by dragging the hue slider around. Here I'll drag this to the right to see how this is starting to look, and it's looking pretty good. We'll desaturate this by dragging our saturation slider to the left a little bit. Here I want to try to create a nice navy blue color. Then hold down the Shift key and click and drag over the stripes and select any color that you feel like you might have missed. Now if you feel like you went too far and you selected other colors outside of the blue, just use this eyedropper here. It's the eyedropper with the minus sign. In this way, you can go ahead and sample away different colors so you make sure that you aren't choosing other colors. You can increase the fuzziness slider to increase the overall range of that selection. In this way, it can broaden or soften those edges. And here, though, you just want to be careful that you aren't selecting other things like the face or the background. So we want to decrease that so we make sure that those items aren't selected. Well, here we have our first color change. We've worked on the color that we have here with the stripes. Let's apply that change by clicking OK. Here we can see the before and then now the after. Well, next I want to work on the hat. And we could, of course, go back to our replace color command, but rather than doing that, I want to make a selection because this hat has a pretty good and defined edge. So let's use quick select to make a selection. Press the quick select tool or press the W key on the keyboard and then change your brush size. Here my brush is too big, so I'll press the left bracket key to make my brush smaller. Then I'll go ahead and click and paint over the hat in order to build up this selection. Here we'll see if we can't get a decent selection of the hat. If you select too much, hold down the Option key on Mac, Alt on Windows, and paint away the area that you've selected. You just want to make sure that you have all of the hat there. Whenever you use Quick Select, you know that you also need to refine the edge of the selection. So let's click on the Refine Edge button. You'll find that up here in the Options bar. Go ahead and click on Refine Edge, and what that will do is it will allow us to view this particular selection here that we have. We can toggle through the views in different ways. If you press the F key, you can see that you can select or view this in different ways. What I want to do is see the hat on white. By pressing the F key, you toggle through the different views of your selection until you get to a view which helps you to see the edges. Here, I can see the edges, and they don't look very good. No big deal. Click on Smart Radius and crank that up. That will really clean up those edges. Then we need to add more contrast there to define the edge. And of course, we'll want to smooth these out just a little bit. Maybe add just a touch of feather because we're working with color. We want to have nice soft transitions around those edges. Well, now that we have refined our edge selections, click OK. When we click OK, that will bring us back to the image and the selection that we have here. Well, now to change the color in this area, I want to use hue saturation. Here we'll click on the hue saturation icon, which will create a hue saturation adjustment layer with a mask based on the selection which we just created. Now, one way that you can use hue saturation is to click on the colorize option. This is a great option when it comes to changing color when you want a really consistent color all across that area. In this case, it defaulted to this navy blue, which actually was pretty good. So go ahead and try to find a nice blue there again. Then we can change the saturation slider. I'm going to decrease the saturation and then darken this up using the lightness slider. We can create a bit more of a navy blue that way and just dial this in until we have a nice color look for that. And here I don't need to get too exact, but I do want it to look good. That's the thing with all these sliders, right? You can keep tweaking them until you get it just right. Well, I like the look of that. Let's take a look at how we've done. Here's our overall before, and then now here's our after. And here with this image, I just wanted to illustrate a bit of a workflow, how we can start off using replace color, but then we can also integrate into our workflow other techniques and skills that we have in regards to making selections or making color changes like we did here using hue saturation and also replace color.